Hey guys, tonight we're going on a little journey through time, through lush green paddies, the humid scent of the earth rising around you, and the distant sounds of water. Buffaloes huffing softly in the early dawn. You're standing in the heart of the ancient Khmer Empire, just as the morning mist curls lazily over endless rows of rice. The air feels thick, almost sticky, yet there's a coolness in the way the mist wraps around your ankles. Farmers bend low, their hands moving quickly, cutting golden stalks of rice that shimmer like treasure in the soft light. You can hear the rustle of leaves, the quiet slap of bare feet in the mud, and the occasional crack of a bamboo pole. A warm breeze sighs across the fields, heavy with the smell of damp earth and freshly cut rice. It's hypnotic in a way. You could probably stand there all day breathing it in, but let's be honest, you probably wouldn't survive a day in this heat and humidity without swatting at the mosquitoes and wondering why you didn't pack a water bottle. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It helps me a lot, and I'd love to know where you're listening from. Leave your city and time in the comments below. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge deeper into the paddies, feeling the mud tug gently at your toes. Your feet sink, just a little, squelching into the warm, damp earth as you pass by rows of workers in wide-brimmed hats, their shirts soaked through with sweat, but their faces calm. This is a job they know well. Rice is life here. It's not just food, it's culture, survival, and a thread woven through generations. The ancient Khmer people didn't just grow rice, they revered it. It was seen as a gift from the gods, a divine link between heaven and earth. That's why every harvest started with a prayer, a simple offering of thanks whispered into the wind. The first grains plucked were never eaten. They were carefully set aside, a symbolic offering to the ancestors. This wasn't just superstition, it was a deeply ingrained belief that the spirits of the land and the spirits of their forebears were watching, waiting, and deserving of respect. You can almost feel it now, the slight hush that falls over the field as the first sheaf is cut. The workers pause, wiping their brows, nodding to each other. Even the birds seem to quiet down, as if the land itself is holding its breath. Historians still argue whether the Khmer saw rice as an actual deity or more as a symbol of divine blessing. The old temple inscriptions are a little vague on that point, and of course, a lot of that knowledge was lost in time, buried under centuries of jungle growth and forgotten battles. But you do know this rice wasn't just food, it was life. And standing here knee-deep in the wet fields, you feel it too. The sun rises higher, burning away the mist, and the sweat starts to bead on your forehead. The scent of the fields shifts. It's not just the sweet smell of ripe grain anymore, but something richer, almost earthy. You spot a small shrine at the edge of the paddy, a few sticks of incense, smoldering the smoke, curling lazily into the sky. A faded garland of jasmine and marigold hangs nearby, and you wonder who placed it there. A farmer's grandmother, perhaps. Someone who believed that without this quiet gesture, the harvest might fail. The rains might not come, or worse, the family's luck might turn sour. And speaking of the rains, have you ever tried farming rice without a good downpour? It's not exactly a success story. The Khmer farmers depended entirely on the rhythm of the monsoon, watching the skies with a kind of nervous patience. Too much rain, and the fields would flood, washing away months of work. Too little, and the earth would crack, leaving brittle stalks that never had a chance. Some years, They said you could tell how things were going just by the way the frogs croaked at dusk. Long drawn out croaks meant a good season. Short, sharp ones meant trouble ahead. Is that a proven science? Probably not. But you find yourself listening anyway, hearing the distant ribbit of frogs echoing across the water and wondering what secrets they know that you don't. As you wander further, you spot an old wooden cart, its wheels half buried in the mud. It's loaded high with sheaves of rice, and the farmer steering it offers a tired smile. His skin is leathered from the sun, his hands rough, his eyes crinkled with the kind of deep-set lines that tell you he's been doing this longer than you've been alive. He nods and you nod back, sharing a silent understanding that this slow, back-breaking labor is what life was made of for centuries. And you can't help but wonder how many bowls of rice did it take to build the temples of Angkor? How many hands bent over fields, like this day after day, to feed the laborers who carved giant stones and built an empire? You step away from the fields for a moment, letting the sun warm your face, the scent of the harvest heavy in the air, the cicadas buzz, the wind sighs through the sugar palms, and somewhere a bird calls out, a high lilting trill that echoes into the distance. The day stretches on the work, never really ending. But for now, you're content to stand here, toes sunk, in the mud eyes half closed, and just breathe in the ancient rhythm of the land. You drift along the muddy paths between the rice paddies, the late morning sun warming the back of your neck. The air feels thicker now, heavy with humidity, and you swat absently at a mosquito buzzing near your ear. Your stomach gives a little rumble, and you remember sticky rice. It's not just a meal here. It's a ritual, a story told in every household, on every festival day, and in every quiet offering to the ancestors. You wander toward a small wooden hut, low to the ground. Its thatched roof sloping gently over a shaded porch. A woman kneels there, her hands deftly folding banana leaves into neat little bundles. You crouch beside her and she glances up with a soft, crinkled smile, offering you a small, warm packet. You unwrap it carefully. Inside, the sticky rice glistens still warm, a faint aroma of coconut rising from the grains. It's studded with a few tiny black sesame seeds, like stars scattered across a pale sky. You pop a bite into your mouth. It's dense, chewy, and slightly sweet, a comfort that settles into your belly like a warm hug. But this isn't just any sticky rice. It's a sacred food, woven into the very fabric of Khmer life. The first batch of sticky rice, harvested each year, wasn't eaten by the family. It was given to the spirits. Small portions were placed at the base of family altars, laid beside burning incense, or even floated down rivers as offerings. The belief was simple but profound. If you took care of the ancestors, they'd take care of you. The cycle of life and death, nourishment and gratitude flowed through every grain, and as you chew, you can almost taste the stories embedded in the rice, stories of ancient kings who believed sticky rice held magical properties. Historians still argue whether sticky rice was used in ceremonial temple feasts, or whether it was a food of the common people, cherished more in the humble huts than the royal palaces. The truth, like the flavor, seems to blend into everything. You glance around and see other dishes laid out nearby. There's a simple bowl of sticky rice, pure and unadorned, placed before a small wooden statue of an ancestor. A tiny saucer holds a few drops of fish sauce, a sliver of banana, and a single battle nut. These aren't random additions. They're symbolic gifts, each chosen with care. You spot a faded scrap of cloth tied around the statue's base, its edges fraying like the threads of memory itself. The woman beside you hums softly as she works her fingers moving with practiced ease. You notice the glint of a gold bangle on her wrist, catching the sunlight, and for a moment, you imagine the countless generations before her who sat in this exact spot, folding leaves shaping rice, whispering prayers into the breeze. Sticky rice wasn't just food, it was a language. It was how people spoke to the dead, how they asked for rain, for health, for prosperity. It was the centerpiece of the Khmer New Year, of weddings, of harvest festivals, where families would gather under the starlit sky, sharing stories and laughing softly as the smoke from the cooking fires drifted lazily upward. You take another bite and let the soft sweetness melt on your tongue. The texture is sticky, almost glue-like, binding the grains together in a soft, yielding mass. It clings to your fingers, and you lick them clean, feeling a little like a child. There's a comfort in it, a simple, honest pleasure that transcends centuries. Nearby a rooster crows, shaking its feathers in the dust. The woman laughs, a warm, throaty sound that makes you smile. She taps her chest gently and says a word you don't quite catch. It's something like spe, meaning happiness. Or maybe it's a blessing, a quiet wish for peace. The sun climbs higher and the heat settles in like a heavy blanket. You wipe your brow and glance at the fields, stretching out before you. The sticky rice growing there isn't just sustenance, it's history. The Khmer Empire was built on the back of rice, farming its wealth, flowing from these golden grains. The great temples of Angkor, the stone carvings of gods and warriors, the intricate irrigation systems that still amaze modern engineers. All of it, in a way, began with sticky rice. And yet, as you sit there in the shade, you realize how much of that knowledge is slipping away. How many people remember the old songs sung during harvest, or the specific way to fold banana leaves for an offering? Historians still argue whether the intricate rice rituals were passed down through oral tradition alone, or whether they were ever formally written. The records, if they existed, have long since crumbled to dust. The woman offers you another packet of sticky rice, this one, with a faint purple hue, infused with butterfly pea flowers, she explains. You taste it, the subtle, floral note, mingling with the familiar warmth, and you're struck again by the quiet sophistication of it all. This isn't just rice, it's art, it's faith, it's memory made edible. You close your eyes for a moment, the sound of distant laughter, the scent of smoke and sweet rice, the weight of the sun pressing down on your shoulders. And you think, in a world that moves so fast, maybe it's the sticky things that hold us together. The sun has climbed higher in the sky, and you find yourself moving away from the rice paddies, following a narrow path lined with wildflowers and buzzing dragonflies. The air feels heavier now, the humidity clinging to your skin like a damp blanket. Your steps slow, and soon you find yourself standing near a cluster of low round baskets, each covered with a simple cloth. The smell hits you before you even lift the corner, a sharp, almost nose-wrinkling tangs that makes you pause. Welcome to the world of fermented fish paste, or as the Khmer call it, prahok. You kneel down, peering into one of the baskets, and inside, you see small fish anchovies maybe, or tiny river fish, layered with salt and packed so tightly they look like a solid mass. A thin layer of liquid glistens at the edges, and there's an earthy, almost cheesy aroma wafting up. The woman tending the baskets nods at you, a glint of amusement in her eyes. She knows that look. You're not the first outsider to wrinkle your nose at prahok. She picks up a woven fan and gently wafts the air toward you, almost like a challenge. You lean in a little closer, inhaling the full scent. Pungent, yes, but also oddly intriguing. It's a smell that makes you think of anchovy pizza, aged cheese, and maybe a touch of wet earth after rain. You're not entirely sure whether you love it or hate it, but either way, it's unforgettable. The Khmer people have been making prahok for over 1,000 years, and it's more than just a condiment, it's survival. In a land where fresh fish could spoil quickly under the relentless heat, fermenting fish in salt meant having protein available year-round. It was, and still is, a cornerstone of Khmer cooking, used in everything from soups to stir-fries to dipping sauces. You watch as a man nearby lifts a heavy clay pot from the ground, the lid creaking as it comes free. Inside is another batch of prahok, this one darker, almost reddish, and he stirs it with a long wooden stick. The scent intensifies and you take a tiny step back, but there's a sense of pride in his movements. This is a craft passed down from parent to child, perfected through generations of trial error and an unshakable tolerance for strong smells. Historians still argue whether prahok originated purely as a preservation method, or if it also had ritual significance in early Khmer society. Some ancient inscriptions suggest that offerings of fish paste were made at temple altars, perhaps as a symbol of sustenance and gratitude. But no one knows for sure. There are gaps in the record, and much of what we know comes from oral histories and local traditions. The woman laughs softly as you take another cautious sniff. She gestures for you to follow her into a small outdoor kitchen where a bubbling clay pot sits over an open fire. She ladles a bit of the steaming broth into a small bowl and hands it to you with a grin. You peer into the bowl, noticing slivers of galangal, a few red chili flakes, and yes, a spoonful of prahok melting into the liquid. You take a tentative sip, and the flavor is surprising. It's not overpowering as you feared, but complex, a savory depth that lingers on your tongue, the saltiness balanced by the faint sweetness of palm sugar, the heat of the chili, and the freshness of herbs. You find yourself going back for another sip, and then another, until the bowl is empty, and your mouth tingles with the lingering taste of ancient Khmer ingenuity. A gentle breeze rustles the banana leaves overhead, and you catch a glimpse of the river beyond its waters glinting in the sun. It's easy to see how prahok became a part of daily life. Here fish were abundant in the rivers. Salt could be harvested from the sea, and together they created a food that could nourish families long after the harvest had ended. You wander toward the water's edge, watching a group of children splash and laugh, their bare feet kicking up droplets that sparkle like tiny diamonds. One boy holds up a small net, wriggling with fish, and you wonder how many of those will end up in a jar of prahok tomorrow. The cycle continues unbroken, as it has for centuries. Your nose still tingles with the scent, but you find yourself growing accustomed to it, maybe even fond of it in a strange, comforting way. After all, prahok is more than just a food. It's a memory, a tradition, a quiet testament to resilience. And as the afternoon sun glows, hot and bright, you realize you're hungry again. Maybe not for prahok, straight from the jar just yet, but for the stories it holds. Stories of survival, of ingenuity, of a people who found a way to make the rivers feed them, even when the fish themselves tried to swim away. You walk away from the pungent, fascinating world of prahok, the scent still clinging to your nostrils, like a stubborn old friend. The path winds through a grove of tall coconut palms, their fronds swaying lazily in the warm afternoon breeze. The air is softer here, sweetened by the faint scent of flowers and a hint of something sugary. You follow the smell curious, and soon you find yourself at the edge of a small clearing where a man sits beneath a makeshift wooden frame. He's tapping the thick trunk of a coconut palm with a slender bamboo tube, and as you step closer, you see a clear liquid slowly dripping into a clay pot below. The man grins, revealing a few missing teeth and gestures for you to come closer. You crouch beside him, watching the sap collect a tiny stream of nectar from the heart of the tree. This, he tells you, is not chew. Fresh coconut sap, the first step in making coconut sugar. You dip a finger into the pot, tasting the sweet liquid. It's light and floral with a hint of caramel, like a gentle whisper of sweetness on your tongue. But of course, this isn't the final product. The real magic happens when the sap is boiled down in wide, shallow pans over an open flame. The man waves you over to a small outdoor kitchen where the sap bubbles and froths, transforming from a pale liquid into a thick, golden syrup. You watch as he stirs it with a wooden paddle, the scent of caramelized sugar, thick in the air, wrapping around you like a warm blanket. As the liquid thickens, it's poured into small molds, sometimes coconut shells, sometimes banana leaves, and left to cool and harden. The finished sugar is soft and crumbly, with a rich toffee-like flavor that melts in your mouth. You break off a small piece, letting it dissolve slowly on your tongue, and it's like tasting the sun, the soil, and the patient work of the tree itself. Coconut sugar wasn't just a sweet treat, it was an essential part of Khmer cuisine, used in everything from savory stews to sticky rice cakes. Historians still argue whether coconut sugar was a luxury reserved for temple offerings and royal tables, or whether it was a common pantry staple in every village. Some old carvings suggest that coconut groves were tended near the great temples of Angkor, while other sources hint that coconut sugar was a humble farmer's trade, sold at dusty markets, alongside bundles of lemongrass and jars of fermented fish. You watch as the man pours the thick golden syrup into a row of leaf-lined molds. His hands steady his movements, rhythmic, almost meditative. It's a process that hasn't changed much in 1,000 years. Heat, patience, and a little bit of luck. He chuckles as he tells you that sometimes if the weather shifts unexpectedly or the fire burns too hot, the sugar can seize up, turning grainy and hard instead of soft and velvety. It's a delicate balance, this alchemy of sap and flame. You glance at the pile of finished sugar nearby, small golden discs stacked like coins, each one holding a little piece of the tree's life. The man offers you another taste, and you close your eyes and the sweetness blooms across your tongue. It's gentle, not cloying, with a subtle complexity that makes you think of wildflowers and the soft rustle of palm leaves in the wind. As you sit back, the man points to the palm trees swaying above. Each tree, he explains, can produce sap for decades, sometimes even longer than a human lifetime. And that's a thought that settles deep in your chest. These trees outlive us. They stand here season after season, offering their sweetness to whoever has the patience to gather it. Nearby, a few children dart between the trees, chasing each other with shrieks of laughter, their bare feet slapping the dusty ground. A woman calls out, reminding them to stay away from the fire, and you watch as she wraps a fresh disc of sugar in a leaf, tucking it carefully into a basket. The afternoon sun slants lower, casting long shadows across the grove. You feel the warmth on your face, the scent of caramel in your hair, and the slow, steady heartbeat of the land beneath you. You take another small piece of the coconut sugar, letting it melt slowly, and you can't help but wonder how many hands before yours have done the same. How many harvests, how many meals, how many quiet moments under these trees have been sweetened by this golden gift. And as you stand up stretching your back, you realize that sometimes the simplest foods are the ones that carry the deepest stories. A tree, a pot, a fire, and the patient, steady hands of the Khmer people who understood how to turn a drop of sap into something worth savoring. The scent of caramel fades as you meander along a narrow, winding path, ducking under low-hanging branches and stepping carefully over roots, gnarled like ancient fingers. The earth here feels softer, almost spongy beneath your feet, and the air is thick with the scent of damp foliage and river water. You hear the distant murmur of a stream and the soft crackle of leaves underfoot. As you round a bend, you spot a small group of villagers squatting near the water's edge, their hands deftly plucking at something green and glistening. You step closer, curious, and realize they're gathering delicate strands of riverweed, thin, vibrant green, and glistening with droplets of water. This is kai, or as some call it, Khmer riverweed, a food you'd probably overlook if you were just wandering by. It doesn't look like much, just a tangle of wet greens. But in the hands of these foragers, it's transformed into something surprisingly delicious. You watch as they spread the riverweed on large bamboo trays, setting them out in the sun to dry. The air is humid, heavy with the scent of river water, but as the sun works, it's magic. The greens wilt, slightly darkening in color, and developing a faint savory aroma, something between nori seaweed and freshly cut grass. A woman with a weathered face and bright, laughing eyes explains that once the kai is dry, it's usually fried until crispy or crumbled into soups and stews. Sometimes it's mixed with sesame seeds, salt, and a touch of garlic, creating a kind of ancient Khmer snack food. You sit down beside her, plucking a piece from the tray, and nibble. It's delicate, almost papery, with a faint hint of the river's minerals lingering on your tongue. There's a nutty aftertaste from the sesame and a whisper of salt that makes you want to reach for another piece. But there's more to this simple dish than meets the eye. You learn that riverweed was once a crucial part of the Khmer diet, especially during times when fish were scarce or rice stores ran low. It was easy to gather, required no elaborate farming, and could be preserved for weeks by drying it in the sun. A food born of necessity, but treasured nonetheless. Historians still argue whether kai was considered a delicacy for the elite or a humble fallback for the common folk. Some suggest it was even used as a medicinal tonic, believed to cool the body during the sweltering heat of the dry season. The truth, like the river itself, is a little murky. Stories lost in time, flowing away with the current. The woman next to you laughs as she describes an old saying: if you eat too much riverweed, you'll start dreaming of fish and forget your own name. A playful superstition, perhaps, but you find yourself wondering, what if there's a grain of truth in it? The river flows quietly nearby, its surface dappled with sunlight filtering through the trees. A few children splash in the shallows, their laughter ringing out like bells. And you watch as a man casts a net into the deeper water, hoping for a lucky catch. The simplicity of the scene is almost meditative. The steady rhythm of hands laying out the riverweed, the soft flap of the bamboo trays in the breeze, the distant call of a kingfisher darting through the air. You lean back on your elbows, feeling the warmth of the sun on your face, and close your eyes for a moment, letting the sounds and smells wash over you. When you open them again, the woman hands you a small bundle wrapped in banana leaf, inside a few crispy pieces of fried kai. You nibble carefully the crunch, satisfying the flavor unexpectedly rich for something so humble. She winks at you, her eyes twinkling with mischief, and tells you that the best riverweed is always harvested during the last days of the rainy season, when the rivers are full and the plants grow strong and lush. But it's also the hardest time to gather it. The banks are slippery, the currents unpredictable, and sometimes, she says with a chuckle, You end up chasing the riverweed downstream, like a child chasing a kite. You laugh with her, imagining the scene, grown adults slipping and sliding through the mud arms, flailing all in pursuit of a handful of green threads that taste like the river itself. The day begins to soften, the shadows growing longer, and you realize you've been sitting by the river for hours. The sound of the water, the soft rustle of drying leaves, the warmth of the sun, it all blends into a quiet, steady rhythm, a kind of ancient music that hums in your bones. And as you rise, brushing the dust from your hands, you can't help but think about how much of the Khmer world was built on small, humble things: grains of rice, drops of sap, strands of riverweed, all woven together into a tapestry of flavor, survival, and story. The sun dips lower, casting golden streaks across the sky, and you feel the air shift, a subtle drop in temperature, the first whisper of evening. You wander further down the river path, where the ground grows firmer, and the scent of damp leaves gives way to something heartier, almost medicinal. A small cooking fire crackles ahead, smoke rising in slow curls, and a group of villagers sits around it, their hands busy chopping roots and herbs. A heavy pot simmers nearby, its surface flecked with oil and bits of floating leaves. You step closer, drawn by the earthy aroma, something between roasted garlic, cracked pepper, and the musky scent of tree bark after rain. This is jungle stew, an ancient Khmer staple made from whatever the forest offers. The woman stirring the pot smiles at you, her face lined but bright, and she gestures to a pile of freshly dug roots laid out on a banana leaf. Some are long and knobby, their skin rough like tree bark. Others are pale and smooth, like fat white carrots. You pick one up. It's surprisingly heavy, with a faintly sweet, almost gingery smell. The woman tells you it's called Knorr, a jungle root, prized for its medicinal properties. She laughs softly, saying it's good for sore joints, upset stomachs, and as she winks at you, other private matters. You raise an eyebrow, and she chuckles, stirring the pot with a wooden spoon. Historians still argue whether these jungle roots were foraged out of necessity or whether they held deeper significance. Some even speculate they were used in early forms of Khmer medicine, long before written records. The debate lingers, like the steam rising from the pot, impossible to pin down completely. You watch as she tosses in a handful of wild leaves, some glossy, some furry, some so fragrant they make your mouth water, and then slices a chunk of root, dropping it into the broth. The scent grows richer, almost intoxicating, and you feel your stomach rumble in anticipation. The fire crackles, embers popping in the quiet, and you sit cross-legged on the ground, letting the warmth of the fire seep into your bones. The stew simmers slowly, the flavors deepening with each passing minute. A man nearby tells you that these jungle stews were once the backbone of survival for Khmer villagers, especially during the lean months when rice stores ran low and fishing was scarce. You imagine families gathering like this for generations, sharing food and stories under the stars. The man hands you a small wooden bowl, the surface polished smooth from years of use. You take a tentative sip, and the broth floods your mouth with an unexpected depth of flavor, earthy peppery, with a faint citrus note that lingers on the edges. It's warming, almost soothing, and you find yourself closing your eyes, letting the taste settle in. The villagers laugh softly at your reaction, and one of them points out a bundle of herbs, tied with twine, saying they're used for making a special tonic. You lean in, breathing deeply, and catch a sharp, almost minty scent that clears your sinuses in an instant. They tell you This tonic is said to cool the blood and calm the mind, and it's often sipped slowly after meals. A ritual as old as the empire itself. A small boy sits nearby, carefully stripping the leaves from a branch and dropping them into a clay pot. He looks up at you grinning, and you see a smear of dirt across his cheek. There's something timeless in that smile, an echo of 1,000 years of Khmer children, learning from their elders, their hands busy, their ears tuned to the quiet wisdom of the forest. The fire burns lower, casting long shadows on the ground, and the air hums with the quiet murmur of voices, the clink of bowls, the soft rustle of leaves. You glance up at the trees, their branches swaying gently against the darkening sky, and for a moment, it feels like you've stepped into a story, a tale of resilience, of survival, of making something nourishing from the wild, untamed world around you. You take another sip of the stew, feeling the warmth spread through your chest, and you wonder how many of these roots, these leaves, these humble plants have faded from memory, lost to time. The jungle holds its secrets close, and even now, there are flavors you'll never taste, names you'll never learn. But for now, you savor the moment, the smoky air, the flicker of firelight, the taste of something ancient and earthy on your tongue, and you realize that the story of the Khmer Empire isn't just written in stone, temples, or royal chronicles. It's here too, in the simmering pots in the hands that gather roots, in the quiet laughter around the fire. The sky is shifting now, that dusky time when the last streaks of sunlight stretch long across the fields, and a cool breeze drifts through the trees. You stretch your legs, shake the dust from your hands, and follow the faint sound of music. Low rhythmic drums, the metallic clink of small cymbals, and the unmistakable hum of a gathering crowd. Soon you find yourself at the edge of a clearing where the villagers are preparing for a feast. The scent of something rich and smoky fills the air, mingling with the earthy aroma of trampled grass and the sharp tang of fermented palm wine. You're handed a small, roughly carved cup, and you give it a cautious sniff. The liquid inside is cloudy, with a faint, almost floral scent. This is SRA Soul traditional Khmer rice wine, brewed in clay pots, the fermentation process, as old as the stories told around the fire. You take a sip, and it's surprisingly light, sweet, with a soft yeasty warmth that tingles on your tongue. The villagers laugh and clap as a man stands up raising a gourd of Esra Soul. High above his head, he shouts something you don't quite catch, and the crowd cheers. You gather that this is a celebration of sorts, perhaps a good harvest, a wedding, or maybe just an excuse to drink and dance under the stars. As the music picks up, the smell of grilled meat wafts toward you. You turn and spot a row of clay grills, low to the ground, with thin sticks of skewered meat sizzling over the coals. The firelight dances across the faces of the cooks, their skin glistening, their laughter spilling out like a warm breeze. You move closer, your mouth watering, and realize the meat isn't pork or chicken, it's frog. Small whole frogs, charred and crisp, their legs curled, skin blistered from the heat. A woman notices your hesitation and grins, holding out a skewer. You take it gingerly, feeling the heat radiating through the bamboo, and give it a tentative bite. The skin is crisp, almost crackling between your teeth, and the meat inside is tender, surprisingly mild, like a cross between chicken and fish, but with a faint smoky aftertaste that lingers. You chew slowly, the flavor rich and a little wild, and you can't help but smile at the strangeness of it all. Historians still argue whether frog grilling was a common practice among the Khmer, or a more regional tradition, born from necessity in times when larger game was scarce. Some believe it was a delicacy reserved for special occasions, while others suggest it was an everyday meal in river communities where frogs were abundant. The truth, like so much of history, remains tangled in the roots of the past. A man beside you raises his cup of Esra Sol in a friendly toast, and you clink your cup against his, the sound sharp and bright in the evening air. The rice wine is stronger than it seems. You feel a pleasant warmth spreading through your chest, your limbs growing a little looser, your thoughts a little fuzzier, as if the edges of the world have softened just a bit. The music swells the beat steady and hypnotic, and you watch as the villagers begin to dance. Their feet move in slow, deliberate steps, hands weaving through the air like the fronds of the palm trees, swaying overhead. It's mesmerizing, this blend of music, food, and movement, an ancient rhythm that feels as natural as the breeze on your skin. Someone passes you a small bundle of banana leaf, and inside, you find sticky rice mixed with shredded coconut and a hint of palm sugar, a sweet, fragrant counterpoint to the smoky frog. You take a bite, the coconut soft and slightly chewy, the sugar melting into the rice, and for a moment, it's as if the flavors are a conversation. Sweet, savory, smoky, and light, all mingling on your tongue. A child runs past, giggling, his face smeared with rice, and his hands clutching a frog skewer like a prize. The older men sit back, their faces relaxed, the lines around their eyes softened by drink and the slow glow of the fire. You lean back, sipping the last of your rice wine, and let the scene wash over you. The hiss of the meat on the grill, the crackle of the fire, the faint buzz of insects, and the distant splash of fish jumping in the river. It's a simple feast, but it feels rich, alive, with the heartbeat of a culture that knows how to celebrate, how to savor, how to turn even the smallest, oddest ingredients into a meal that nourishes body and soul. You take another bite of frog, this time without hesitation, and let the smoky, savory flavor settle in your mouth. The night deepens. The fire burns low, and you feel a sense of quiet contentment, like you found your place just for now in the great, winding story of the Khmer people. The night deepens, and the air turns cooler, carrying a gentle breeze that whispers through the tall grass and rustles the leaves of nearby trees. You stretch your legs and wander toward a cluster of palms, where a small group of women is seated in a circle, their hands busy with something sticky and golden. They glance up as you approach, offering shy smiles and gesture for you to join them. As you settle down, cross-legged on the woven mat, you see what they're working on. Small, glistening orbs, almost like jewels, nestled inside banana leaves. One woman unwraps a piece and holds it out to you. The sticky golden flesh, glinting under the flickering light of an oil lamp. This is the fruit of the sugar palm, known locally as the knot. You take the piece, gingerly feeling its slightly sticky texture between your fingers, and pop it into your mouth. It's soft and sweet, with a hint of caramel and a faint floral note that lingers on your tongues. The flavor is subtle, less sugary than you might expect, more like the soft memory of sweetness than a loud sugary punch. The women laugh gently as they watch your reaction, clearly amused by your wide-eyed wonder. One of them shows you how they extract the fruit, climbing high into the swaying palms, slicing the heavy clusters free, and carefully separating the golden orbs from their tough, fibrous shells. It's labor-intensive, a dance between balance, patience, and a bit of daring, but they speak of it with a kind of quiet pride. The sugar palm wasn't just for sweets, though. The sap could be boiled down into syrup, the fibers twisted into ropes, the leaves woven into baskets or thatching. It was in many ways the ultimate multi-purpose tree, a symbol of resilience and resourcefulness. You watch as a young girl carefully arranges the sticky fruits on a platter, her small hands moving with a practiced rhythm. She hums softly to herself, a tune that seems half lullaby, half prayer, and you find yourself swaying gently in time with the melody. Historians still argue whether the sugar palm's fruits were considered a delicacy reserved for special occasions or a daily snack in the lives of the Khmer people. Some accounts suggest they were offered during temple rituals, perhaps as part of a ceremonial meal, while others hint that children would sneak them from the trees when no one was looking, a secret treat, savored in quiet moments under the swaying fronds. The debate feels almost irrelevant as you sit here now, surrounded by the soft crackle of leaves and the warm hum of conversation. The fruit is what? It is sweet, sticky, fleeting. A reminder that life too is often sticky and fleeting, and that sometimes the best thing you can do is sit under a tree, share a piece of fruit, and let the night wrap around you like a soft, warm blanket. A small boy toddles over his hands, sticky from the sugar palm fruit, and plops down beside you, giggling as he offers you a half squish piece. You accept it with a smile, the fruit sticking to your fingers, and take a bite. It's sweeter than the last, perhaps because of the boy's grin, perhaps because you're starting to understand the quiet rhythm of life. Here, the wind shifts, carrying the scent of wood smoke and the faint rustle of palm fronds. The moon hangs low in the sky, now a pale disk, casting a gentle glow over the clearing. You feel the softness of the earth beneath you, the sticky sweetness on your tongue, and the slow, steady hum of life moving at its own pace. You close your eyes for a moment, listening to the sounds around you, the gentle laughter, the murmur of the wind, the distant chirp of crickets, and let it all settle in your chest like a slow, steady heartbeat. The sugar palm you think is more than just a tree. It's a gift. Sweet, sticky, a little messy, and entirely worth the trouble. And as the last of the fruit is shared out and the women begin to gather their things, you feel a sense of quiet gratitude, grateful for the sticky fingers, the soft laughter, the warmth of the fire, and the simple, fleeting pleasure of a sugar palm, fruit eaten under the stars. You wake from a light doze stretching your legs beneath the wide, star-scattered sky and follow the gentle clinking of clay cups toward a small hut on the edge of the gathering. The air is cooler now, the night deepening, but the scent drifting from the hut is warm, comforting, herbal, almost medicinal, with a faint bitterness that catches the back of your throat in a strangely pleasant way. Inside you find an elder sitting cross-legged on a woven mat, her hair streaked with silver, and her hands stained dark from handling roots and leaves. She looks up, her eyes sparkling with quiet humor and gestures for you to sit. Before her is a collection of small, chipped clay cups, each filled with a dark, steaming liquid that seems to glow faintly in the low light. You pick up a cup, the heat seeping into your palms, and bring it to your lips. The first sip is sharp, almost bitter, but as it settles on your tongue, it opens up into something more layered, earthy, with a hint of sweetness and a faint floral undertone that lingers at the back of your throat. This is tea crayon, a traditional Khmer herbal infusion, said to soothe the body and quiet the mind. It's a blend of jungle herbs, roots, and sometimes dried flowers, steeped together in water, heated over a wood fire. The elder tells you that each family has its own secret recipe passed down through generations. Some swear by adding lemongrass or ginger for extra warmth, while others insist on including bitter leaves that clean the blood, whatever that means exactly. You glance at the small pile of ingredients beside her, twisted bits of bark, faded leaves, a few crumbled blossoms that look like they were plucked, straight from the jungle floor. She picks one up and holds it to your nose. It smells like something between mint and a damp earth, with a faint citrus tang that makes you breathe a little deeper. Historians still argue whether these herbal infusions were considered purely medicinal or if they also played a spiritual role in daily life. Were they meant to heal the body, or perhaps to clear the mind for prayer and meditation? Some old temple carvings depict scenes of offerings being made alongside pots of steaming tea, but the meanings have faded like the stone itself. The elder laughs gently, as if reading your thoughts, and tells you not to worry too much about the details. It's good for you, she says simply, and that feels like enough for now. You sip again, feeling the warmth seep through your chest, loosening the tightness in your shoulders, easing the little aches you hadn't realized you were carrying. The elder explains that certain herbs are chosen for their cooling properties, good for fevers, headaches, and those days when the sun feels too hot for too long. Others, she says, are warming, used for stomach aches, joint pain, or simply to lift the spirits on cold nights. You watch as she prepares another pot, her hands moving slowly, almost ceremoniously, as she drops the herbs into the bubbling water. The scent fills the small space, an aromatic fog that seems to settle into your skin, your hair, your very breath. It's soothing, almost hypnotic, and you find your eyelids growing heavy, your mind drifting in slow circles around the quiet hum of the fire. A young girl peeks into the hut, holding a small bundle of fresh leaves, and the elder nods approvingly. The girl sits down, carefully adding the leaves to the pot, her movements mirroring the elder's slow, deliberate, respectful. There's something beautiful about it, this quiet transmission of knowledge, this passing of wisdom from one generation to the next. You lean back, the clay cup warm in your hands, and gaze at the simple scene before you. The soft glow of the fire, the muted chatter of voices outside, the faint clink of cups, and the rhythmic bubbling of the tea. The herbal scent hangs in the air like a soft, invisible thread, tying you to this place, this moment, this long, winding history of the Khmer people and their relationship with the land. And as you sip the last of your tea, feeling the warmth spread through your chest and the fog of sleep tugging gently at your thoughts, you realize something simple but profound. Sometimes nourishment isn't just about filling your stomach. Sometimes it's about tending to your body, your mind, and your spirit all at once, one sip at a time. You set the empty cup down the firelight, dancing on the rim, and let out a soft sigh. The elder smiles at you, her eyes crinkling with a kind of timeless understanding, as if to say, "See, it's good for you." And in that moment, you believe her. The night has deepened into a velvety black, stars glittering high above like scattered grains of rice. You rise from the warm glow of the tea hut and follow a narrow path toward the faint sound of chopping, the rhythmic thud of blade against stalk. The scent in the air shifts again, bright citrusy, with a faint sharpness that makes your mouth water before you even see the source. You find yourself standing before a small cooking station where a woman is vigorously pounding something in a heavy stone mortar. The sound echoes softly in the quiet night, a comforting, steady rhythm. She pauses, wiping her brow with the back of her hand, and gestures for you to step closer. The smell intensifies, fresh green, tangy, like the promise of flavor about to bloom. She picks up a long, slender stalk lemongrass. You crush it gently between your fingers, and the scent explodes in the air, bright lemony, with a hint of ginger and a faint, almost floral undertone. It's the scent of kitchens, of stews simmering over smoky fires, of soups bubbling in clay pots. Lemongrass is everywhere in Khmer cuisine, you learn. It's not just an herb, it's a signature, a flavor, woven through the food like a familiar melody. It's crushed into pastes, stirred into curries, steeped into teas, and even tucked behind ears as a kind of natural perfume. The woman offers you a small bowl of something warm chicken, stewed with lemongrass galangal and a touch of coconut milk. The first spoonful is a revelation, tangy fragrant, with a subtle sweetness that lingers on your tongue. You close your eyes, savoring the way the flavors bloom and fade like ripples, spreading through still water. Historians still argue whether lemongrass was a native to the region or introduced via trade routes that crisscrossed ancient Southeast Asia. Some believe it arrived with Indian merchants. Others argue it grew wild along the riverbanks, long before ships ever sailed up the Mekong. The truth is probably a little of both, tangled like roots beneath the jungle floor. You watch as the woman continues her work, her hands quick and sure. She adds a pinch of salt, a handful of crushed garlic, and a splash of something dark and pungent fish sauce, you realize. The mortar sings under the rhythmic pounding, and you wonder how many generations have stood exactly where she stands now, crushing lemongrass and whispering quietly to themselves as they worked. She gestures for you to try, handing you the heavy pestle. It feels solid in your grip, the stone cool and smooth. You press it into the lemongrass and garlic grinding in slow circles, and the scent rises bright and heady. It fills your lungs, clears your mind, and makes your stomach rumble. In quiet anticipation, a small boy watches you giggling as you fumble with the pestle, and the woman laughs too. A warm, rich sound that bubbles up like the stew simmering nearby. She pats your arm, a silent encouragement, and you find yourself grinning. Despite the awkwardness, you glance at the table and see lemongrass stalks, bundled neatly tied with strips of palm leaf. Each bundle a promise of future meals, of flavors yet to be discovered. The scent lingers on your skin and your hair, in the very air around you, as if the lemongrass itself has become a quiet companion on this journey. The woman offers you another bite of the stew, and you take it gladly. The chicken is tender, the broth light, but flavorful. The lemongrass singing through each mouthful like a soft refrain. It's simple, yes, but there's a quiet complexity to it. A balance of bright and savory, sharp and mellow, that feels like a distillation of the Khmer landscape itself. You lean back, the warmth of the meal spreading through you, and watch the flames dance under the pot. The night feels softer now, the air tinged with lemongrass and smoke, and you find yourself drifting into a kind of quiet reverie, lulled by the gentle sounds of cooking, the murmured conversation, and the soft clink of bowls being set out for the next meal. And as you sit there, you can't help but think, lemongrass isn't just a flavor. It's a memory, a ritual, a thread connecting past and present. It's the whisper of old hands crushing herbs under the stars, the echo of forgotten kitchens, the gentle hum of life, moving at its own unhurried pace. You take one last sip of broth, letting the flavor settle on your tongue, and close your eyes, the scent of lemongrass wrapping around you like a soft, fragrant blanket. The embers of the fire crackle behind you as you move away from the lemongrass-scented cooking circle, your senses still tingling with citrus and smoke. The air is gentle now, the heat of the day just a memory, and the moon glides silently above like a careful observer. You follow a winding trail, edged with bamboo and torchlight, the flickering glow, casting shadows that sway like dancers in the underbrush. Ahead, you catch sight of a new kind of preparation, one that involves something pale purple and green, layered like a flower looming in slow motion. You step closer and see a wide, shallow basket filled with banana blossoms, their tight petals peeled back, to reveal the tender white heart at the center. A woman crouches beside the basket, carefully plucking the smallest inner leaves and slicing them thinly. You join her and she hands you a petal, smooth and firm, with a faintly floral scent. You nibble the tip, and it's slightly bitter, almost vegetal, like the taste of a garden after rain. Banana blossoms, you learn, are a regular feature in Khmer cuisine, used in salads, stews, or even dipped in batter and fried to a golden crisp. They're one of those ingredients that seem humble at first glance, but carry a quiet elegance. A flower you can eat, a tree's final offering before its fruit ripens. She gestures toward a large wooden bowl where thinly sliced blossom is tossed with lime juice, chili garlic, a splash of fish sauce, and a scattering of roasted peanuts. The colors shimmer white, cream soft pink, and gold like a sunrise captured in salad form. You take a bite. It's crisp, refreshing with a gentle bitterness that fades into something nutty and bright. Historians still argue whether banana blossoms were used primarily as peasant food or if they found their way into temple feasts. In royal recipes, they seem to vanish, but the women here insist their grandmothers always served blossom salad on holy days as an offering of beauty and sustenance rolled into one. And you can see why. There's something ritualistic about the whole process, the peeling, the slicing, the gentle rinsing, to tame the bitterness. It requires attention, presence. You don't rush a banana blossom. You treat it with respect, as you would a shy guest. A young girl sits beside you, watching your every move, then giggles softly when you fumble a petal and drop it in your lap. She helps you fold it into a perfect curl, showing you how to remove the small, hard pistils before slicing. There's an art to it, of course. There always is. The woman scoops a handful of the salad into a banana leaf bowl and hands it to you. You sit cross-legged on the ground and eat slowly, each bite a blend of soft crunch, tangy lime, and the faint zing of chili that warms your mouth without overwhelming it. It's a dish that feels alive, layered, textured, and surprisingly refined. In the background, you hear the rustle of banana leaves in the wind and the soft call of night birds. The grove feels like a sanctuary, a space carved out for quiet work and delicate flavors. No one hurries here. The banana blossom insists on patience. You finish your portion and watch as more are made, the women chatting softly as they work their hands, moving with easy grace. It's mesmerizing, the repetition, the gentle flow of movement, the way the basket fills and empties again. It's not just cooking, it's choreography. Someone hands you a woven fan, and you begin to wave it absent-mindedly, keeping the mosquitoes at bay while the salad continues to pile up in elegant curls. There's a comfort in it, the slow rhythm, the shared task, the knowledge that this too is part of something much older than any of you sitting here tonight. And as you sit beneath the banana trees, with the scent of lime and garlic still clinging to your fingertips, and the taste of bitter blossom softened on your tongue, you find yourself thinking that perhaps food isn't just about survival or pleasure. Maybe it's a kind of language, spoken in salt and vinegar, in careful cuts and quiet bites, in the way a petal is folded just so. You take one last look at the basket of blossoms, then lean back against a tree trunk, the night wrapping around you like silk. Somewhere in the distance a frog croaks, once then falls silent. The breeze carries the faintest trace of citrus and nut, and the stars blink, gently above as if nodding their approval. You rise slowly from the banana grove, brushing stray petals from your lap, and wander down a narrow path, where the scent shifts once again, this time to something unmistakably smoky, savory, and primal. Your steps quicken, drawn by curiosity, until you find yourself near a row of low dome-shaped clay grills, glowing faintly in the night. The air here is thick with the scent of char and spice, and you pause to watch as a man flips something small and glistening over the fire. The hiss of fat meeting hot clay fills the air, punctuated by occasional crackles and pops. The man grins his teeth bright in the firelight and gestures for you to step closer. You realize with a mix of surprise and mild hesitation that it's frogs, sizzling on the grill. Small hole, frog's legs. Splayed skin blistered, the occasional spurt of juice hissing onto the coals. The man lifts a skewer, holding it up like a prize, and motions for you to try. You hesitate just for a moment, but then take the skewer. The frog is hot, the skin crisp under your fingers. You take a bite, and the flavor bursts on your tongue. Smoky slightly, gamey with the satisfying crackle from the charred skin. It's not what you expected at all. There's a faint hint of lemongrass, maybe garlic, and something else? You can't quite place an earthy umami richness that makes you go back for a second bite, then a third. The man nods approvingly and points to a basket nearby where raw frogs await their fate. They're small, caught from the nearby paddies and streams, cleaned and seasoned with a simple rub of salt chili and crushed herbs before hitting the hot clay. You watch as he works, flipping the skewers with practiced ease, his hands moving in a rhythm that feels almost hypnotic. The firelight flickers across his face, highlighting the lines etched by years of working in the heat. The smoke, curling lazily upward into the star-streaked sky. Historians still argue whether grilled frogs were a specialty of the countryside or a widespread dish enjoyed across the Khmer Empire. Some suggest they were a practical choice, a quick protein source for farmers working in the fields, while others believe they may have held a special place in village feasts and ceremonies. There's no clear answer, just the lingering scent of smoke and the quiet satisfaction of a simple, flavorful meal. A woman joins the man at the grill, bringing a small jar filled with a dark, pungent dipping sauce. She offers you a taste, and you dip a piece of frog into the sauce, the flavors mingling in a way that makes you pause, a rush of salt heat, and a faint tang of fermented fish that lingers long after you swallow. It's bold, unapologetic, and surprisingly addictive. You sit down on a low stool, the heat from the grill warming your face, and watch as the villagers gather around. Some bring rice in small woven baskets, others ladle out broth from a nearby pot, and everywhere there's the quiet, steady hum of conversation, stories shared in low voices, laughter bubbling up. Now and then, the soft clink of clay cups. A child tugs at your sleeve, offering you a skewer with a shy grin, and you accept, feeling the warmth of the community settle into your bones. The frogs may be small, but they are a feast, a reminder that in this place nothing is wasted and every scrap of the land's bounty is honored. The night deepens, the stars gleaming brighter above, and you realize that the scent of grilled frog will linger in your hair, your clothes, maybe even your dreams. It's a scent that's part of the landscape, now woven into the stories of the people who have lived here for generations, hunting frogs by moonlight, cooking over open fires, and savoring each crispy, smoky bite as a small but vital thread in the fabric of Khmer life. You close your eyes for a moment, the crackle of the fire and the soft murmur of voices blending into the night's lullaby. And in that quiet, smoky stillness, you understand that food isn't just nourishment, it's connection, it's history, told through flavor tradition, kept alive in every meal, shared under the stars. You leave the warmth of the grill, behind the smoky scent, lingering in your clothes, like a quiet reminder, and stroll along the worn footpaths that weave between the huts. The night air is cooler now, fragrant with damp earth, hints of charred herbs, and something new, an aroma that's at once nutty buttery and faintly tangy. You follow your nose and find a small group, gathered around a low table, the flickering lamplight dancing across their faces as they lean in murmuring softly. In the center of the table is a large shallow bowl, and as you peer inside, your eyes widen tiny cream-colored ovals, glistening in a light aromatic broth. Someone grins and gestures for you to sit. They hand you a simple clay spoon and motion toward the bowl. You take a tentative scoop, and the contents tremble slightly. A cluster of ant eggs, delicate and surprisingly plump. This is ant egg soup, a dish you didn't expect, and one that's far more common than you'd imagine in the Khmer countryside. The broth is light, almost clear, with flecks of herbs and the faint shimmer of oil. You bring the spoon to your mouth, pausing for a breath, then take a sip. It's subtle. The broth is fragrant, infused with lemongrass, a touch of galangal, and a whisper of lime leaf. The ant eggs themselves are soft, almost creamy, with a gentle pop that releases a faint nutty richness. It's delicate, not overwhelming, and there's a strange, quiet pleasure in the texture. Each egg, a tiny edible pearl. You take another spoonful, and the flavors unfold, slowly layering in gentle waves. The citrus brightness, the herbal backbone, the nutty undertone of the eggs. It's the kind of dish that makes you pause between bites, not because you're unsure, but because it asks you to slow down and notice. A man sitting nearby chuckles softly, telling you that ant egg soup is often served at special gatherings, weddings, festivals, and sometimes as a celebratory meal at the end of the harvest. It's a dish that requires patience and precision, finding the right nests, harvesting the eggs without angering the biting ants, and cooking them just long enough to retain their delicate structure. Historians still argue whether ant egg dishes were a regional specialty or part of a broader Khmer culinary tradition. Some records hint at insect consumption in temple feasts, while others suggest it was born out of necessity, a way to stretch protein sources during lean seasons. Like so much in the Khmer world, the answer isn't clear, lost to the passage of time and the crumbling of old manuscripts. The woman beside you gestures to a woven basket filled with fresh herbs, sawtooth, coriander, sweet basil, and a few sprigs of something peppery you can't quite place. She tears a leaf, crushes it between her fingers, and drops it into your bowl. The aroma blossoms immediately, a sharp green brightness that lifts the subtle flavors of the soup. You sip again, and the contrast is striking. The ant eggs creamy and rich, the herbs sharp and bright, the broth a gentle fragrant backdrop that ties it all together. It's the kind of dish that feels like a secret, a quiet treasure, shared between those who know where to look and how to savor. A small boy sits nearby, eyes wide, watching you eat, with a mixture of curiosity and delight. He holds up a leaf, mimicking the woman's gesture, and you grin, letting him sprinkle it into your bowl. There's something deeply human in this moment. The quiet instruction, the shared laughter, the simple act of adding a leaf to a bowl. The night deepens, the firelight dimming, and the hum of crickets rises around you. You lean back on your hands, the clay bowl warm in your lap, and watch the smoke curl lazily into the dark sky. The taste of ant egg soup lingers on your tongue, subtle, surprising, and oddly comforting. And as you sit there, you think about the patience it takes to gather ant eggs, the quiet work of hands that know how to find what's hidden, how to transform the smallest things into sustenance. You realize that every bite is a story, every flavor, a thread woven into the vast, intricate tapestry of Khmer life. You take one last sip, savoring the delicate balance of flavors, and feel a quiet gratitude settle in your chest. The soup is finished, but the memory will linger soft as a whisper in the quiet corners of your mind. The quiet buzz of the evening lingers in the air as you rise from the circle, your belly warm, with the gentle nutty aftertaste of the ant egg soup. The path ahead shimmers in the moonlight, lined with slender tamarind trees, whose feathery leaves cast delicate shadows on the ground. You pause for a moment, taking in the soft rustle of branches overhead, and feel a tang in the air, sharp, bright, almost electric on your tongue. Drawn by that scent, you follow the winding trail to a small clearing where a woman sits beneath a tamarind tree, surrounded by baskets filled with long curled pods, dark brown and slightly sticky, their brittle shells cracking open to reveal gleaming sticky pulp inside. She smiles at you, her hands deftly separating the pulp from the fibrous veins, and offers a piece for you to try. You pluck the pod gently, and the sticky fruit stretches between your fingers like caramel. The first bite is startling, an immediate puckering sourness that makes your lips purse and your eyes widen, followed by a mellow, fruity sweetness that lingers at the edges. You can't help but grin, your mouth tingling with the bright, almost playful flavor. Tamarind, you learn, is a flavor deeply rooted in Khmer cuisine, used in soups, sauces, candies, and even medicinal brews. The woman laughs as she tells you about tamarind's reputation as both a food and a remedy. It's said to cool the body, ease digestion, and balance out the heaviness of rich dishes, though some cheeky villagers claim it also chases away bad spirits. Whether that's true or just an old wives' tale, no one's quite sure. Historians still argue whether tamarind made its way to Cambodia through ancient trade routes, or if it grew wild in the forests, long before the first merchant boats ever arrived. Some believe it was a gift from India. Others say it drifted in on the winds, the seeds, finding root wherever the soil was willing. The truth is tangled as always, one of those quiet mysteries that lingers in the corners of history like the sticky threads of a tamarind pod. You watch as the woman stirs a pot over a low flame, the tamarind pulp dissolving into a deep glossy sauce. She adds a pinch of salt, a glug of fish sauce, a scattering of crushed chili, and finally a small handful of jaggery sugar, stirring until the mixture thickens into a dark, fragrant paste. She dips a spoon and blows gently and offers you a taste. It's rich and layered, sweet, tangy, salty, with a gentle burn that warms your mouth without overwhelming it. You can taste the balance, the care, the quiet knowledge of generations in each bite. It's a sauce that could lift a humble grilled fish or a simple bowl of rice into something special, something memorable. A small boy scurries past holding a bundle of tamarind pods, strung together like a necklace. He laughs when you reach for them, darting away with a playful shriek, and you can't help but chuckle at the sight. There's something timeless about the scene, the laughter of children, the careful hands of the cook, the low murmur of conversation, blending into the sounds of the night. The woman wraps a few tamarind pods in a banana leaf and hands them to you, her eyes crinkling in a warm smile. You take them, feeling the sticky sweetness clinging to your fingers, and bow your head in thanks. The fruit may be simple, but it holds stories in its sour, sweet, flesh stories of trade, of adaptation, of meals shared under starlit skies. You sit for a while longer, nibbling on a tamarind pod, the tartness sharp against the quiet hum of the night. The air feels thick with history, the trees swaying gently, their leaves whispering secrets you can almost but not quite understand. And as you sit beneath the tamarind tree, the taste of its fruit, still tingling on your tongue. You think about how food isn't just about filling a belly. It's about contrast, sour and sweet, rough and smooth, bitter and bright. It's about finding balance not just on a plate, but in life itself. The wind sighs through the branches, carrying the faint scent of tamarind smoke and earth, and you let it wash over you. Quiet, steady grounding. You rise slowly, the tang of tamarind still lingering on your tongue, and follow the gentle curve of the path as it leads you deeper into the village. The air feels heavier here, as if the night is holding its breath, and the soft glow of oil lamps flickers between the huts. The scent that drifts towards you now is sharper, almost briny, with a faint musky undertone that makes you pause and wrinkle your nose. Curiosity wins out, of course, and you approach a wooden table where a group of villagers sits, hunched over small earthenware jars. They glance up grinning as they catch the look on your face, and one of them lifts a lid with a flourish, releasing a pungent cloud of air that makes your eyes sting slightly. Inside the jar, you see tiny dark shapes packed tightly. Together they're shells, glistening with salt, and something thick, almost inky. The man scoops one out with his fingers, yes, fingers, and holds it up for you to see a small, whole crab, no larger than a walnut, glistening in the lamplight. This, he tells you with a wink, is K-Dom, Ben fermented crab, a delicacy in Khmer cooking, though not everyone's first choice at a buffet table. You take a cautious sniff and nearly pull back, but the man laughs, pressing a crab into your palm. It's sticky cold and faintly briny, the scent strong and earthy. With a mixture of hesitation and determination, you take a bite. The texture is surprisingly soft, the meat melting into the rich salty sauce that clings to it. The flavor is bold, a burst of umami with an almost smoky depth, cut by the sharp tang of lime and a faint whisper of garlic. It's intense, no other word for it, but there's something addictive about the way it lingers on your tongue, demanding another bite. You glance around and see others dipping their crabs into small bowls of chili and lime, their fingers deft and unbothered by the mess. The shells crunch faintly, the juices dribbling onto banana leaves spread across the table. There's laughter in the air, low, easy, the kind that bubbles up from shared moments and communal plates. Historians still argue whether fermented crab was a luxury item or a humble meal for fishermen and farmers. Some ancient temple carvings hint at crab offerings, but whether that was symbolic or culinary, no one knows for sure. Like so many Khmer traditions, it's a question that has no single answer, just a tangle of stories passed down, whispered across generations and etched into the taste buds of those willing to try. A woman beside you, her hands stained, dark from the brine, explains that the process of making fermented crab is as much art as it is science. The crabs must be caught at just the right time, when the shells are soft and the meat is rich. They're packed into jars with salt, sometimes a bit of sugar, maybe a dash of rice wine, and then left to ferment in the shade for days, sometimes weeks. It's a gamble, she admits, grinning a delicate balance between flavor and rot. You watch as she pulls a jar from beneath the table, its lid sealed tight with palm fiber. She cracks it open, releasing a deep, almost earthy aroma that makes your mouth water, despite yourself. She plucks a crab from the jar, dips it in a sauce of lime juice and chili, and pops it into her mouth, eyes closing in satisfaction. A boy nudges you, offering a small bundle of herbs, sawtooth coriander perhaps, or maybe a hint of wild basil. He points at the crabs, miming the act of wrapping them in the leaves before eating. You try it, the herbal sharpness cutting through the rich brine, and it's a revelation. Suddenly, the flavor feels balanced, grounded, as if the plants are taming the wildness of the sea. The night hums around you, the rhythmic chirp of crickets, the soft rustle of palm fronds, the quiet clink of clay cups as they're refilled with rice wine. You lean back on your elbows, the taste of fermented crab still tingling on your tongue, and watch the villagers eat, talk, and laugh. Fingers, sticky eyes shining, faces relaxed in the soft glow of the lamps. And you think not, for the first time tonight, how much of life is in the small, messy moments, the sticky fingers, the bold flavors, the laughter shared over something that might have seemed strange to you just hours ago. The crabs may be tiny, but they hold something vast, a taste of the rivers, the tides, the long winding story of a people who have learned how to coax flavor from the edges of the world. You take another crab this time without hesitation and let the briny, savory rush fill your mouth. The night stretches on soft and warm, and you feel yourself sinking into it. The taste of the Khmer Empire lingering on your tongue, bold and unforgettable. You leave the jars of fermented crab behind your fingers, still carrying the faint trace of brine and lime, and wander down a path dappled with moonlight. The air is softer now, almost still, and the village seems to exhale around you, a quiet lull between bursts of chatter and the occasional clink of cups. Ahead, under a small awning strung with dried betel leaves, you spot a cluster of elders gathered around a low table. Their fingers are stained red, their lips tinted deep crimson, and as you approach, you catch the unmistakable, slightly spicy, almost peppery scent of betel nut lingering in the air. They grin as you draw near, a knowing twinkle in their eyes, and one of them, an elderly man with a silver-streaked mustache, gestures toward a small bundle of leaves, lime and areca nuts laid out before him. He pats the ground beside him, and you sit folding your legs beneath you, curious and just a little wary. Betel nut chewing, you learn, is an old, almost meditative ritual in Khmer culture, a way to pass time, to socialize, to keep the mouth busy, and as some claim, to sweeten the breath, though judging by the deep stains on everyone's teeth, that last point feels a bit up for debate. The man demonstrates the process with care, almost reverence. He takes a betel leaf, dark green, heart-shaped with a slight gloss, and spreads a thin layer of slaked lime across its surface. Next, he adds a thin slice of areca nut, followed by a sprinkle of tobacco, and folds it into a neat little parcel. He offers it to you with a nod, and you accept, turning it over in your fingers before taking a cautious bite. The first sensation is sharp, a peppery heat that tingles across your tongue and numbs your gums. Then comes a faint bitterness, a woody, almost astringent flavor that makes your mouth water in an oddly pleasant way. You chew slowly, feeling the tingle spread your saliva, thickening your lips, growing warm. The elders chuckle softly, clearly entertained by your wide-eyed reaction. One woman, her hair twisted into a loose bun, leans in and explains that betel nut isn't just a pastime, it's a tradition, a symbol of hospitality, and in some cases, a quiet form of rebellion. Historians still argue whether betel nut was first introduced to the Khmer region through trade with India, or whether it grew wild in the jungles, long before the earliest temples rose from the earth. Some scholars believe it was once used in sacred rituals, offered at altars alongside rice and flowers, while others argue it was simply a social glue, a way to bring people together, one bite at a time. The man beside you grins, his teeth stained a deep rust red, and tells you that betel nut is sometimes called the Khmer cigarette, though it's far older than any paper-rolled tobacco. He gestures toward the small bundle of leaves and nuts, explaining how it's often used in weddings as a symbol of respect and connection. Two families coming together, their fates intertwined like the threads of the betel vine. As you sit and chew, you feel the warmth spreading through your body, a gentle buzz settling in your chest. Is not quite a high, but a soft humming awareness. Your senses just a little sharper, your breath a little deeper, your thoughts slowing into a steady, unhurried rhythm. The conversation around you drifts in and out, stories of old fishing trips, of seasons when the rains came too early or too late, of children who grew up and moved to the city, leaving behind the old ways. There's laughter too low and easy, and the occasional burst of song, a melody that seems half remembered, half invented in the moment. A young boy scurries up tugging at the elder's sleeve and is rewarded with a small, folded betel leaf bundle. He grins, tucks it behind his ear like a tiny trophy, and races off into the dark, his bare feet barely making a sound on the packed earth. You lean back feeling the night settle into your bones, the warmth of the betel nut humming softly through your veins. The stars shimmer overhead, the leaves rustle in the breeze, and you feel a quiet sense of belonging, not as an outsider peeking in, but as a small part of something larger, older, and deeply human. The man beside you offers another bundle. You shake your head smiling, the taste of lime and spice still lingering on your tongue. One is enough for tonight? You think, a small, buzzing taste of a tradition that has colored the lives, teeth, and laughter of the Khmer people for generations. The night deepens, the edges of the village melting into the dark as you meander along a path that feels almost dreamlike, now soft earth underfoot, the rustle of leaves above, and the low murmur of voices carrying across the still air. The scent that drifts toward you is different this time, warm spice, almost exotic, though in a way that feels quietly familiar, like the ghost of a market stall, long closed. You come upon a small open-air shed where two women kneel beside a low table, their hands moving deftly over bowls and baskets filled with dried seeds, bark and roots. The air hums with the sharp, almost resinous aroma of crushed spices, a symphony of scents that makes your mouth water without even knowing what dish they're making. They glance up as you approach, smiling in a way that makes you feel welcome, like you've stumbled into a secret that they're happy to share. One woman gestures for you to sit, and you do cross-legged on the packed earth as she holds up a small clay bowl filled with a mix of seeds, black-brown, reddish, and faintly glistening. You recognize a few peppercorns perhaps, and maybe some cardamom or coriander, but others are unfamiliar, like the tiny shriveled red pods she crushes between her fingers, releasing a burst of citrusy fragrance into the air. This, she explains, is the spice blend that forms the backbone of Khmer, cooking a carefully balanced mixture that flavors curries, marinades, and even simple rice dishes. It's not just seasoning, it's history ground into powder. You watch as she adds the crushed spices to a heavy mortar, the pestle worn smooth from years of use, and begins to grind in slow rhythmic circles. The scent blooms as the spices break down, warm, earthy, with a faintly floral note that makes you think of old markets and cooking fires. The sound of the grinding is steady, almost hypnotic, like a quiet drumbeat in the night. Historians still argue where all these spices came from, whether they were native to the Khmer heartland or carried in from far-off lands on the backs of traders and elephants. Some records hint at trade caravans winding their way through the forests, bringing cinnamon from India, cloves from the Spice Islands, and star anise from China, while others suggest that many of these flavors were cultivated in hidden garden plots along the riverbanks. The woman pauses, handing you a pinch of the spice blend, and you hold it to your nose. The aroma is complex. There's heat from the pepper, a faint sweetness from cinnamon, a hint of citrus, and an undertone that's almost woody, like the scent of an old cedar chest. You taste a small pinch, and it sparks across your tongue, a burst of warmth, a tingle at the back of your throat, and a slow, lingering heat that feels like a quiet fire smoldering in your chest. A small boy darts past, laughing, and the woman calls after him, scolding gently in a way that's more fond than firm. He stops just long enough to steal a piece of star anise from the table, popping it into his mouth like candy, and disappears into the night. You laugh softly, and the woman grins, shaking her head in mock disapproval before returning to her work. She tells you that certain blends are used for specific dishes, one for stews, another for grilled meats, a third for broths that simmer low and slow through the night. Each family has its own version, a quiet inheritance passed from grandmother to mother to daughter, measured not in teaspoons, but in memory, just enough to make it sing, she says, tapping her chest. The man sitting nearby joins in, explaining that the great temples of Angkor were built during an era when spices were more than just flavor. They were status trade, even diplomacy. A gift of rare peppercorns could seal a marriage alliance. A shipment of cinnamon might pay tribute to a distant king. The old stone carvings don't tell you what the food tasted like, but the echoes are there in the trade routes, the temple offerings, and the quiet pride in the way these hands move over the spice bowls. You sit back, the scent of the spices wrapping around you like a warm blanket, the faint tingling on your tongue, a gentle reminder of the complex web of history you're tasting. The grinding continues. The night stretches on, and you let yourself drift, lulled by the rhythm of the pestle, the low hum of voices, and the soft crackle of firewood burning nearby. And you think, as you breathe in the scent of cinnamon pepper and unknown seeds, that maybe this is the heart of it all, not just the food itself, but the hands that make it, the memories folded into each recipe, the quiet care passed down across generations, like a thread stitched into the fabric of the land. You stretch your legs, the scent of spices still clinging faintly to your skin, and follow the narrow trail as it curves, gently past a grove of banana trees. The air here feels different, cooler, softer, carrying the faint rustle of leaves, and the subtle, almost sweet scent of something being folded, wrapped, and tucked away with care. You come upon a small group of women seated on woven mats, their hands moving with practiced ease as they fold neat parcels from glossy green banana leaves. The movement is rhythmic, almost hypnotic. A scoop of sticky rice, a few shreds of coconut, maybe a slice of caramelized banana, or a spoonful of crushed mung beans, all wrapped and secured into tidy little triangles, bundles, or rolls. One woman glances up, her face creased by years of sun and laughter, and gestures for you to sit beside her. She offers you a bundle, the leaf, still warm from the gentle steam rising from a pot nearby. You take it, feeling the soft give of the rice inside, and peel back the layers, carefully revealing a glistening core of rice coconut and something golden, perhaps a bit of palm sugar melted into syrupy sweetness. You take a bite, and the flavors unfold. Gently warm, creamy rice, the faint crunch of toasted sesame, the mellow sweetness of coconut milk. It's simple, but it's comforting in a way that feels almost like a lullaby for the senses. The women chat softly as they work, their hands moving in tandem, and you learn that banana leaf wrapping is more than just a technique. It's a tradition, an art, and a quiet ritual that ties the present to the past. The leaves themselves are chosen with care, large, unblemished. Their deep green surfaces wipe clean and pass briefly over a flame to soften them, making them pliable enough to fold without tearing. Historians still argue whether the art of banana leaf wrapping originated as a necessity, keeping food fresh and portable for workers in the fields, or as an aesthetic, a way to honor guests with carefully folded fragrant parcels. Some ancient carvings suggest food offerings wrapped in leaves were placed at temples, a humble tribute to the gods. Others hint that this practice evolved from the need to transport meals through dense jungles and humid plains. You watch as one of the women dips a bundle briefly into a pot of boiling water, the steam rising in fragrant tendrils, and then places it on a woven tray to cool. The leaf glistens the rice within, swelling slightly as it steams, and the bundle feels like a small treasure, a gift of sustenance, wrapped in nature's own packaging. A young girl sits nearby, mimicking the adults, her small fingers struggling to fold the leaves just so. She grins at you, tongue poking from the corner of her mouth in concentration, and you smile back, watching her press down the final fold with a triumphant little flourish. It's imperfect, lopsided, but beautiful in its own way, a reminder that tradition isn't always neat or precise, but it's passed down nonetheless. One of the women laughs softly, sharing an old saying: a good wrap keeps the rice warm, a careful fold keeps the heart warm. The others nod, their hands moving steadily, and you feel the weight of those words settle gently in your chest. The fire crackles nearby, the soft hiss of steaming pots blending with the quiet murmur of voices, and you feel the night slow around you. The banana leaves rustle in the breeze, their scent mingling with the faint sweetness of coconut and rice, and you lean back, letting the moment settle over you. Like a warm green blanket, you take another bite of the bundle in your hands, the leaf imparting a faint grassy note to the rice, and it feels like you're tasting the land itself, the soil, the sun, the rain, all folded into a single simple package. The women continue their work, folding, wrapping, steaming, and as you watch, you think of how many meals have been carried this way, tucked into baskets, packed for long journeys, offered at temples, shared in quiet moments beneath the trees. Each bundle is a small act of care, a reminder that food is more than just nourishment. It's a gift, a connection, a piece of history passed from hand to hand, folded into the fabric of life, one leaf at a time. You rise from the circle of women, the warm scent of banana leaves and rice still lingering in the air, and wander toward the edge of the village, where the trees thin and the ground slopes gently downward. The air here feels cooler, brushed by a soft breeze, and in the distance, you hear the gentle lap of water against the banks, a slow, steady rhythm that pulls you forward. Soon you stand at the edge of the great Tonle Sap Lake, its vast shimmering surface stretching out beneath the moonlight. The water seems to breathe, swelling gently in the dark, and you can almost hear it sigh as the breeze whispers across the surface. A group of fishermen sits nearby, their nets coiled in neat bundles, their boats resting half in the water, half on the shore. They gesture for you to join them, and you settle onto the cool sand, feeling the damp earth beneath your fingers. One of the men holds up a small glistening fish, a silver flash in the moonlight, and grins. This, he tells you, is tray, riel, a staple of the Khmer diet, a fish so abundant that it once fed empires. The name, he says with a wink, is no coincidence. Riel is also the word for Cambodia's currency. You chuckle at that, the quiet connection between the rivers and the nation's very wealth, humming in the air. The fish here are more than just food. They are lifeblood, tradition, and history, all tangled together in nets and lines. The lake swells and shrinks, with the seasons fed by the Mekong's breath, its waters rising and falling like a giant slow heartbeat. It's said that during the flood season, the lake expands to 5 times its dry season size, turning fields into seas and bringing fish to the very doorsteps of villagers who barely need to leave home to catch their dinner. You watch as a fisherman expertly threads a net, his fingers quick and sure, the motion so fluid it feels like a dance. He tells you that fishing here isn't just about casting lines. It's about reading the water, the wind, the stars. It's about knowing when the fish will swim close and when they'll vanish into the deeper channels. Historians still argue whether the Tonle Sap's fish were a resource shared communally or controlled by the powerful Angkor kings. Some say fishing rights were carefully allocated with temple records showing harvest quotas and taxes paid in dried fish. Others believe it was more of an open commons, a gift from the gods shared freely among all. The truth, like the lake itself, shifts with the tides, never quite, still, never entirely knowable. A woman sits nearby carefully gutting and cleaning a fish with a curved, well-worn knife. The motion is swift practiced scales flicking into the grass, silver skin gleaming in the lamplight. She salts the fish generously, then tucks it into a clay pot lined with herbs and banana leaf. You learn this is tray, prahok chong, a type of fish paste made by fermenting the fish with salt spices and sometimes crushed rice, a cousin to the prahok you encountered earlier, but richer, darker, and said to last for months, even years. You glance at the pile of fresh fish glistening on the sand, their bodies slick and shining, and think of how many hands it takes to feed a village, how many lines cast, how many nets pulled, how many hours spent drying, salting, fermenting, and cooking. The lake gives but only to those who understand its moods, its rhythms, its quiet language, spoken in ripples and currents. The wind shifts, carrying the cool scent of water and the faint tang of fish, and you feel the weight of the lake's presence, vast, timeless humming. Beneath the surface, a boy runs along the shore, skipping stones that disappear into the dark. The soft splash, barely a whisper against the stillness. You close your eyes listening to the soft lap of water against wood, the distant splash of a fish leaping in the dark, and the low murmur of voices sharing stories by the fire. You think of the generations who have fished these waters, their lives rising and falling with the floods, their meals caught by hand and shared beneath the stars. And as you sit there, the damp earth cool beneath you, the lake stretching endless before you, you feel a quiet understanding settle in your chest. The fish of Tonle Sap aren't just food, they are the heartbeat of a people, the thread that ties past to present, a shimmering silver promise that life flows on season after season as long as the water rises. You rise from the lakeside, slowly, your knees a little stiff from the cool earth, and follow the faint glow of lanterns back toward the village. The path winds through low grasses and shrubs, the scent of damp soil and river water clinging to your clothes like an invisible reminder of where you've been. As you approach a small clearing, the air grows sweeter, floral, almost nutty, with a hint of something faintly toasted. The scent draws you in like a quiet song, and soon you find yourself standing at the edge of a small lotus pond, its wide, round leaves floating serenely under the moonlight, their edges beaded with silver droplets. A group of women kneels by the water, their hands deftly plucking seed pods from the surface, shaking them gently so the seeds rattle inside. One woman gestures for you to join her, smiling as she cracks open a pod and spills the pale green seeds into her palm. Lotus seeds, she explains, are a treasured ingredient in Khmer, cooking a snack, a dessert, a medicine, and sometimes even a prayer offering. She hands you a few, their skin soft and velvety, and you pop one into your mouth. It's surprisingly mild, with a faintly sweet, nutty flavor that deepens as you chew, like a quiet echo of almonds, mixed with the softness of fresh peas. She shows you how to peel away the bitter green germ inside the seed, explaining that some prefer the slight edge of bitterness, while others discard it for a purer, milder taste. You try both ways, feeling the subtle shift in flavor, and find yourself smiling at the quiet complexity of such a simple thing. Lotus seeds are often simmered in coconut milk to make sweet soups or roasted for a crunchy snack. Some families steep them into tea, believed to calm the heart and cool the body on hot days. The women tell you that the lotus itself is more than food. It's a symbol of purity, of resilience, of beauty, rising from muddy waters. Historians still argue whether the use of lotus seeds in daily Khmer cooking predates the grand temples of Angkor, or whether it spread through the empire as a delicacy reserved for royalty and priests. Some ancient carvings show offerings of lotus flowers and seed pods at temple altars, but whether those were for spiritual sustenance or culinary delight, no one knows for sure. The women laugh softly as they work their fingers, moving quickly, popping seeds from pods into woven baskets. One of them hands you a fresh pod. The seeds cool and smooth against your skin, and you feel the weight of it in your palm, light, but filled with the promise of nourishment. You watch as a small girl carefully drops seeds into a simmering pot, the steam rising in fragrant curls as the seeds swirl in the coconut milk, softening slowly, their flavor infusing the liquid like a quiet secret. A spoonful is ladled into a simple clay bowl, and you take a cautious sip. Sweet, creamy, with the faintest whisper of vanilla, and a grounding, earthy note from the seeds themselves. The warmth spreads through your chest, a gentle comfort that feels both nourishing and soothing, as if the lotus itself is wrapping you in a soft embrace. You take another sip, the sweetness lulling you into a soft, drowsy contentment, and watch the women work under the stars, their movement slow and steady, the night humming softly around them. The pond glimmers in the moonlight, the wide lotus leaves casting soft circular shadows, and you think about how something so beautiful can also be so practical, how the seeds feed bodies, the flowers feed spirits, and the roots anchor the plant deep in the muddy soil, unseen but essential. You lean back, resting on your hands, and let the sounds of the night wash over you. The quiet splash of a fish, the rustle of leaves, the soft crackle of firewood from a distant hut. The scent of sweet lotus soup drifts on the breeze, mingling with the damp, earthy fragrance of the pond, and you breathe it all in, slow and deep. And as you sit there, the lotus salt still soft on your tongue, you feel a sense of quiet gratitude for the simple things, the small, sweet tastes that tie you to a place, a people, a history as old as the soil beneath your feet. You rise slowly from the lotus pond, the taste of sweet, creamy soup lingering on your tongue, and follow the soft glow of firelight toward the heart of the village. The path winds gently, lined with shadows of swaying palms, and you hear the familiar steady thud of something being pounded, an old rhythmic sound that feels like the heartbeat of the night. Drawn by curiosity, you find yourself at the edge of a small courtyard where several women stand over heavy stone mortars, their arms moving in slow, practiced arcs as they pound something into a thick, fragrant paste. The scent fills the air, Sharp, spicy, bright, an intoxicating blend of chili, garlic, lime, and herbs that makes your mouth water before you even know what you're smelling. You step closer, and one of the women gestures with a smile for you to join her. She offers you a wooden pestle, heavy and smooth, from years of use, and nods toward the mortar, where a mixture of red chilies, lemongrass, galangal, and kaffir lime leaves glistens in the lamplight. You lean in, catching the full force of the aroma, fresh, zesty, with a hint of heat that tickles the back of your throat. The pounding is slow, deliberate, almost meditative. The woman shows you how to use your whole body, not just your arms pressing down, grinding in circles, lifting and pressing again. It's a dance, really a quiet rhythm that speaks of generations of hands, learning the same movements, the same textures, the same scents. You try your hand at it, feeling the weight of the pestle in your grip, the way the ingredients break down, slowly under the pressure. The sound is satisfying. Thump crush, grind the scent, blooming richer with every stroke. The mixture begins to take on a deep, rusty hue, flecks of green, from the herbs mixing with the bright red of the chilies, and you can't help but smile at the transformation happening beneath your hands. Historians still argue whether this type of hand-pounded spice paste, kroyong, as it's called, was an everyday staple or a ceremonial preparation reserved for special meals. Some suggest that the complex blends were reserved for temple feasts and royal kitchens, while others believe they were the foundation of humble daily cooking in villages across the Khmer Empire. The truth, as always, is likely somewhere in between, a story told through taste rather than text. The woman beside you laughs softly, tapping your shoulder as you fumble a bit with the pestle, and then shows you how to scrape the paste neatly from the sides of the mortar, forming a tidy, fragrant mound in the center. You breathe in deeply, the aroma sharp and bright and full of promise. The paste will be used, she explains, in a fish amak, a steamed curry made with coconut milk and river fish, wrapped in banana leaves. She points to a pile of freshly caught fish nearby, their scales shimmering silver in the lamplight, and you realize the journey of the ingredients, from the pounding of the herbs, to the wrapping in leaves, to the slow steaming over fire. Each step is simple, but together they create something layered, something deeply rooted in the land, the rivers, the forests. A child wanders up curious and is handed a small taste of the paste on the tip of a finger. He squeals at the heat, fanning his mouth dramatically, and the women burst into laughter, the sound rolling out into the quiet night like a warm breeze. You join in grinning, the heat of the chilies still tingling on your tongue, a pleasant burn that makes your eyes water just a little. The pounding continues slow and steady, a rhythm that feels ancient, timeless, like the quiet pulse of the land itself. The scent of the paste mingles with the night air, carried on the soft rustle of leaves and the distant hum of insects, and you find yourself swaying gently to the rhythm, lulled by the steady thump and the quiet laughter. You think of the hands that have pounded spices in this same way for centuries, hands that knew how much chili to add for heat, how long to grind for smoothness, how to balance the sharpness of lime with the richness of coconut milk. It's a knowledge passed down, not in books, but in gestures and taste, in the quiet correction of a grandmother guiding a child's hand. You close your eyes for a moment, breathing in the scent of the paste, feeling the weight of the pestle in your hand, the soft heat lingering on your lips, and you know that this humble act of grinding spices is a story all its own, a story of patience, of care, of flavors layered together until they become something greater than the sum of their parts. And as you sit there in the warm glow of the fire, the sounds of the night, soft around you. You think that perhaps the most important ingredient in any dish is time, time to pound, to taste, to laugh, and to share. You ease away from the soft glow of the cooking fire, the warmth of the spices still humming in your chest, and drift down a narrow path, lined with jars, row upon row of clay vessels, tucked beneath thatched awnings, their surfaces worn smooth from years of handling. The air here hums with a different kind of scent, sharp, tangy, almost sour, with an edge that makes your nose crinkle, but also stirs a quiet curiosity in your belly. A woman sits nearby, her hands moving, with the steady rhythm of someone who has done this 1,000 times. She lifts a jar lid with a soft clink, and the smell rises bold, bright, a mingling of salt, spice, and the unmistakable, slightly funky tang of fermentation. You peer inside and see vegetables bobbing in brine, slivers of carrot green, mango long beans, and something that might be papaya, all glistening in the lamplight, like tiny jewels suspended in liquid. She smiles, offering you a small piece, a slice of cucumber, pale and crisp, its surface slick with brine. You bite in, and the flavor pops salty, sour, a whisper of chili heat that pricks at the edges of your tongue before mellowing into something tangy and refreshing. It's bright and complex, the kind of taste that wakes up your mouth without shouting. These are Khmer pickles, or coaxed, made by layering vegetables with salt, sugar, sometimes rice, wine, and letting time do its work. They're eaten as condiments, little bursts of flavor to cut through the richness of grilled meats, the creaminess of stews, the dense comfort of sticky rice. You watch as she seals the jar again, tying a strip of palm fiber around the lid, and places it back among the others. Each jar holds a different combination, some sweet, some fiery, some mellow, each a small universe of flavor, nurtured through patience and careful balance. Historians still argue whether these pickled vegetables were a luxury for the wealthy or a necessity for the common folk, a way to preserve food during lean months. Some suggest they were offered at temple altars alongside bowls of rice and fresh fruit, a humble gift of the earth, transformed by time. Others believe they were a practical solution for long journeys, a way to carry the brightness of the harvest across seasons. The woman gestures for you to try another, this time a sliver of pickled green papaya, its texture crisp, its flavor sharper than the cucumber, with a note of sweetness that rounds it out. You chew slowly, the tang lingering in your mouth, and feel a quiet appreciation for the hands that made it, the careful layering of salt and sugar, the patience to let it ferment just long enough to bloom without spoiling. A small boy sits nearby, swinging his legs and nibbling on a piece of pickled mango, his face puckering dramatically before breaking into a wide grin. The woman laughs, ruffling his hair, and you can't help but smile too, the scene warm and familiar in a way that feels timeless. You glance around and see more jars, stacked neatly, some labeled with faded characters, others left, plain, their contents a mystery until opened. The air hums with the quiet magic of fermentation, the soft alchemy that turns raw, humble ingredients into something bright and unexpected. The woman shows you how they sometimes mix pickled vegetables into stews or serve them alongside fatty meats to cut through the richness. She dips a spoon into a small bowl and offers you a taste, a pickle relish, mixed with chili and garlic. Its flavor, bold, almost bracing, but balanced by a sweetness that lingers just long enough to make you crave another bite. You lean back, the flavor still dancing on your tongue, and feel the soft pull of the night settling around you. The jars sit quietly, their contents slowly transforming in the dark, a silent testament to the patience and care of the hands that tend them. The breeze stirs, carrying the scent of salt and spice, and you think of how these pickles, these small, sharp bursts of flavor, hold stories within them of harvests of preservation of families, gathering around shared plates and passing down recipes that exist only in memory, in taste, in the careful turn of a jar lid. And as you sit there, the lamplight flickering softly, the night stretching long and dark, beyond the village you feel a quiet gratitude for the small, transformative power of time, how it takes what is ordinary, and through waiting, through tending turns, it into something that lingers on the tongue and in the heart, long after the last bite is gone. The night stretches deeper, the stars shimmering above like scattered grains of rice, and you move away from the rows of pickle jars, the tang of salt and vinegar still faint on your breath. The path curves gently, leading you into a grove where the air changes warmer, drier, with a scent that's both sweet and faintly smoky, tinged with something floral and wild. You slow your steps, noticing the low hum of bees, a soft, contented murmur that rises and falls like a distant chant. Ahead you see a man crouch beside a tree, his hands steady, as he lifts a woven basket filled with something glistening and golden. As you draw closer, the scent blooms, thick, rich, a heady mix of sweetness and the faint, musky tang of the jungle, wild honey. The man grins, offering you a small, sticky piece of honeycomb. You hold it gingerly, watching the light glint off its hexagonal cells, each one filled with amber liquid that shimmers like captured sunlight. You take a bite, and it floods your mouth thick and velvety, the sweetness deep and layered with hints of wildflowers, damp wood, and the faintest trace of smoke from the smoldering grass, used to coax the bees away. It's not like the honey you find in a neat glass jar at the supermarket. This is wild, untamed, complex, and a little unpredictable. The taste, shifting subtly with each bite, depending on the flowers. The bees visited the season, the weather. There's even a hint of bitterness in the back, a reminder that this sweetness was hard won. The man explains, his voice low, and even that gathering wild honey is an old tradition, passed down through families. An art? A dance with the bees. They burn small clumps of dry grass to create smoke, calming the hives just enough to harvest, without too much sting or loss. It's risky work, climbing trees, reaching into hives that hum with life, but the reward is golden, literally. Historians still argue whether honey was reserved for temple offerings and medicinal use in the Khmer Empire, or if it sweetened the daily lives of farmers and fishermen alike. Some ancient carvings depict honey being poured into bowls beside fruits and rice cakes, but whether it was a common pantry item or a rare treasure remains an open question. The man gestures toward the baskets lined up under the trees, some holding honeycombs, others small, dark jars sealed with leaves and twine. He tells you that some families infuse the honey with herbs or store it in clay pots to mellow over time, while others use it straight from the hive, savoring the wild complexity while it's still fresh and warm. You taste another piece this time, from a different comb, and it's subtly different, brighter, almost citrusy, with a floral note that lingers on your tongue, like the memory of a breeze through jasmine. It's a reminder that no two batches of wild honey are ever the same. Each is a snapshot of a particular time, a particular place, a particular swarm of bees moving through the jungle in search of nectar. A child runs up his fingers sticky with honey and plops down beside you, licking his hands with noisy satisfaction. The man laughs, ruffling the boy's hair and hands him a small, leaf-wrapped piece of honeycomb. It's a scene that feels both ancient and immediate, a family, a harvest, the quiet sweetness of a moment shared under the stars. The night deepens around you, the hum of the bees fading into the dark as they settle in their hives. The scent of wild honey lingers in the air, mingling with the soft, smoky trace of burnt grass and the distant murmur of water from the lake. You sit quietly, feeling the weight of the honeycomb in your hand, the slow melt of sweetness on your tongue, and the quiet rhythm of a life that knows how to wait, how to gather, how to savor what the land provides. And as you lean back, the stars blurring softly overhead, you think about the bees, their tireless work, their quiet humming presence, and the people who understand how to coax sweetness from the wild one, careful harvest at a time. You rise gently, the sweet, sticky taste of wild honey lingering on your lips, and follow the path back toward the heart of the village, where the soft flicker of lanterns glows like a constellation scattered across the earth. The air feels different now, cooler, calmer, as if the land itself is exhaling the bustle of the day, fading into the slow rhythm of night. You find yourself standing at the edge of a wide field where the rice paddies stretch into the distance, the water reflecting the moon in broken, shimmering fragments. The wind whispers across the open space, carrying the soft scent of damp earth, faint traces of charred wood, and the distant echo of laughter. A family sits, gathered beneath a simple thatched shelter at the field's edge, their dinner laid out on woven mats, bowls of rice, small dishes of pickles, grilled fish wrapped in banana leaf, and a scattering of fruits and herbs. They wave you over with easy smiles, motioning for you to join them. You ease down onto the mat, feeling the rough weave beneath your palms, and a small boy hands you a bundle wrapped in fresh green leaves. You peel it open carefully, revealing sticky rice, studded with bits of sweetened coconut and thin slices of caramelized banana. The scent rises warm and toasty, the banana slightly charred at the edges, the coconut fragrant and rich. You take a bite, and the flavors bloom. Soft, sticky rice, cradling the mellow sweetness of banana. The coconut, adding a faint crunch, a whisper of sugar, melting on your tongue. It's simple, but it feels like a celebration, a quiet feast beneath the stars. The father pours a small cup of Esrei Sol, the homemade rice wine you tasted earlier, and offers it with a nod. The liquid glimmers in the lamplight, faintly cloudy, and you sip carefully. It's warm, a little sharp, but smooth, with a lingering sweetness that spreads across your chest like a slow burning fire. They tell you this is their final meal of the day, shared after the work is done, when the air cools and the fields hum quietly in the dark. The rice paddies stretch out before you, their mirrored surfaces reflecting the sky, and you feel the land breathing around you, the pulse of life, soft and steady. Historians still argue whether meals like these, simple, communal, unadorned, were the everyday fare of Khmer villagers, or whether they held a deeper significance, a ritual of gratitude and rest after long days of labor. Some say they were just ordinary meals, nothing special, while others believe they carried quiet rituals, small gestures that honored the ancestors, the land, the unseen spirits of the harvest. A breeze stirs, rustling the rice plants, and a few fireflies drift lazily between the blades, their light pulsing like a slow heartbeat. The family eats in a quiet rhythm, rice pinched between fingers, bits of grilled fish dipped into sauces, the occasional sip of rice wine shared without a word. You taste everything offered to you, a spoonful of pickled vegetables, sharp and tangy, a sliver of dried salted fish, its flavor bold and briny, a piece of grilled eggplant, smoky and tender melting on your tongue. Each bite is simple, yet layered, a reminder of the land's generosity and the quiet ingenuity of the hands that coax flavor from it. The mother leans over, placing a soft folded hand on your knee and smiles. Her eyes crinkle at the corners, and there's a quiet kindness there that makes your chest ache a little. The unspoken welcome, the simple sharing of food and space beneath the endless sky. A dog curls up nearby, its ears twitching at the faint sounds of the night frogs, croaking crickets chirping the distant call of an owl. The air is thick with the scent of warm rice, grilled fish and damp earth, and you feel the softness of the evening settle over you like a blanket. The family talks in low voices, their words like a gentle hum, and you listen without needing to understand. It's the cadence, the rhythm of a life built on seasons, harvests, and the quiet rituals of gathering and sharing that matters. And as you sit there, sharing this meal beneath the stars, you feel something shift inside, a quiet sense of belonging, a recognition that you are part of something older and larger than yourself. The land, the food, the people, the stories, they all intertwine, a tapestry woven from time, from toil, from tenderness. You lean back, the mat soft beneath you, the stars sharp and bright above, and close your eyes for a moment, letting the sounds, the scents, the tastes, and the gentle warmth of the night wash over you. The soft crackle of the fire fades behind you as you wander slowly from the family's quiet meal, your steps light and unhurried. The path meanders through the fields, the moon high now casting pale light across the water's surface where the rice paddies ripple gently with the night breeze. The air is cool, the kind that brushes your skin like a whisper, and the scents of the village, grilled fish, fermenting pickles, herbs crushed underfoot, linger in the soft darkness. Your breath moves slow and steady as you find yourself once more near the edge of the paddies, where the sky feels impossibly wide and the ground stretches out in glistening ribbons of water and earth. The frogs sing softly in the distance, their rhythmic croaks blending with the hum of insects and the occasional splash of a fish surfacing in the shallows. You lower yourself onto the damp earth, feeling the coolness seep into your palms as you lean back, gazing up at the stars. The night wraps around you thick and warm, carrying the soft echoes of everything you've seen, tasted, and touched. The sticky sweetness of coconut sugar, the sharp tang of tamarind, the rich smoky flavor of grilled frog, the crisp bite of pickled vegetables, the warmth of rice wine shared under the open sky. Historians may argue about the details, who ate what, when, and why, but as you lie there, it's the feeling that remains. The sense of quiet care woven into each meal, the patience it takes to ferment, to simmer, to pound spices by hand. The knowledge that food here is more than survival. It's a connection to the land, to the rivers, to the ancestors, and to the unbroken line of hands that have gathered, prepared and shared these meals across centuries. You close your eyes, the air filled with the scents of earth and smoke and rice, the sounds of the night lapping gently at the edges of your awareness, and you let the softness of the world settle over you like a warm, worn blanket. Your breath slows now, each inhale soft and steady, like the quiet rise and fall of water in the paddies. The night hums gently around you, distant frogs croaking in the dark, the faint rustle of palm fronds shifting in the breeze, and somewhere far off, the soft creak of bamboo as it sways with the wind. The air carries the last traces of the village's warmth, the faint sweetness of rice, the tang of pickled vegetables, the lingering fragrance of spices, ground smooth under patient hands. Your body feels heavier now, sinking gently into the earth, as if the weight of the day, the stories, the flavor, the quiet moments shared, has settled into your bones. You feel the softness of the grass beneath you, the cooling air against your skin, the slow pulse of your breath, syncing with the rhythm of the land. There's no need to think, no need to wonder or remember. Just let the sounds and scents drift past like clouds across a night sky. The quiet laughter of the women folding banana leaves, the steady pounding of the mortar and pestle, the sharp tang of wild honey on your tongue, the warm, steady thrum of rice wine as it spreads through your chest. You are part of it all, now woven into the long, slow story of the Khmer people, their foods, their fields, their quiet, resilient grace. Let the memories settle. Let the sounds blur. Let the night hold you gently. You are safe here. You are welcome. You are home.